Become acquainted with every art. This is one of the most famous quotes by Miyamoto Musashi, a famous ronin samurai of feudal Japan. He is well known as an unstoppable duelist who wrote a book of Five Ring. This book will soon be a book with many modern people will read to learn about life. So why is this quote, acquainted with every art, so important? First, let's define what this quote means. This quote is talking about having tricks are not trades. Trick of all trades, master of none, but often better than master of one. This is the modern Western quote by William Shakespeare that we use now. Since the principle of mastery was praised by two of the most talented individuals of the world, it must not be taken lightly in life. First, let's talk about these two individuals. Here is the only brief description of each of the two because I do not want to misinform anyone when talking about greatness. Let's start out with Miyamoto Musashi. Miyamoto Musashi was a duelist, ronin, who had won over 60 duels. Because of these duels, Miyamoto had experience that no one compared to during his time, and even our modern time. The level of strategies and discipline it takes to never lose a battle for 60 battles is unimaginable. Now let's talk about William Shakespeare. William Shakespeare is well known to be one of the founder of the modern English language and modern storytelling. The experience he developed were through his thousands of stories and poems that will change history forever. This is the descriptions of both William Shakespeare and Miyamoto Musashi. Both have two different fields of study, however, they also both have the same principle and value for life. What is that principle and value, you may ask? The principle and value that they follow was to be a hard worker and to learn everything you can. Miyamoto Musashi was a duelist fighter. He was a tradesman, working with his hand to build. He was an artist. He was an author, but last but not least, he was a learner. William Shakespeare was a famous actor during his time. He was a writer who wrote thousands of pieces. Last but not least, he was a stage director who direct and conduct hundreds of plays for thousands of people. Why did I point out their achievement and career choice? Isn't it obvious that each of their achievement and many career choice have so many things in common? The career choice of Miyamoto Musashi has to do with him working with his hand. This is really important to point out because he was a swordsman. He was a ronin. What is a ronin? Many may ask. A ronin is a samurai that was abandoned by their lord or master, or their master who died and they become a wanderer. A ronin is a feudal Japan was considered dishonorable because they choose to escape rather than sacrifice themselves after their own master died. The swordsman will become jobless and even purposeless. That was probably the reason why Miyamoto Musashi became an artist and a tradesman. He needed a way to survive. Therefore, he had to learn many things and work really hard because it was considered shameful in feudal Japan. So it would be harder for him to survive. A swordsman need their hand to hold the blades, just like an artist need their hands to perform on a canvas. Or a tradesman need their hand to build and fix problems. What all of these have in common? All of the skills require their hands. What else do these skills have in common? Let's compare, shall we? When talking about an artist during feudal Japan, we're mostly talking about a painter. When talking about a painter, it reminds me of Bob Ross, a very famous painter and television stars in modern time. Bob Ross helped millions of people relax and know how to paint. Because of this, he followed the principle of being acquainted with every art. How is this possible? He acquainted with the art of painting, which is logical. He's also acquainted with the art of speaking. Bob Ross has a very relaxing and preserved voice and conversation with the audience. Bob Ross served the United States Air Force for 20 years, ever since he was 18. Coming from experiences, the military is the way where servicemen can learn many skills in life and be an important asset to the U.S. Servicemen will learn both type of skills. They will learn both soft and hard skill. Hard skills are specifically specialized based skills. For example, in the military, I have the hard skills of trained all-wheel vehicle mechanic. For the soft skills, I learned how real leadership work in a stressful environment and much more. Miyamoto Musashi was a swordsman. He have won many duels. I believe that his knowledge of multiple skills and art helped him become a great fighter due to many different perspectives. What do different perspectives really mean, and how do we achieve this theory of study? Different perspectives are way of seeing or understanding the same thing from different angle or viewpoint. That is a definition of what different perspectives really mean. With all of this being said, how do we accomplish different angles in life? First but not least, we need to be open-minded. What does this mean to be open-minded? Being open-minded means being willing to consider new idea. This is actually the first step you will take when it comes to learning. Going back to the main topic, being acquainted with every arts. We have to learn the arts first before becoming acquainted with it. With this being said, the real timeline it takes to actually be a trick of all trades is a timeline of learning, growing, and then mastering. This timeline is simple to understand, however, it would be close to impossible to finish the timeline. Why is it close to impossible to finish the timeline? The answer is a lifetime study of the art. It's easier for a master of one person to be a master of their arts and career because they spend their own life learning and growing the art until they can learn and be proficient with everything that the skill can offer. Master of one and trick of all trades are the opposite of each other. This statement seems to be obvious. However, when we are learning and are open mind, like I said before, we need to look through many different perspectives and viewpoints. We will spend time learning and growing something new. If we follow the timeline of learning, growing, and mastering, learning will be the hardest moment compared to the other moments in the mastery timeline. On the other hand, growing will be the longest moment. There is a reason why I did not mention mastering when mentioning the timeline, because learning and growing will cover our entire lifetime. Why is this the case? Let's start out with picking a skill or an art form. It will take years to learn this art form until we are proficient with it. When we are proficient with it, we choose to monetize it. This is where the lifelong journey of the chosen art form begins. When we choose to turn a skills or an art into a career, how would we turn this into a career? We have to perform or become a mentor. We have to be a performer or a mentor of the skills and art form. We have to be a performer or mentor because this is how we will employ our arts form. This is how we keep practicing this art from both mentally and physically. Once we learn the art form, we need to show and perform it to build confidence and competence. That's the only way we can grow because we cannot stop there at the level of proficiency. However, we have to be exceptional. We have to be the best with this art form because its competitiveness. Famous professional sport player will get paid the most when they are the best in the game. Some example of this are Aaron Donald, Messi, LeBron James, and much more. Those are all the best performer in their art form. They are only in their prime age right now, as they have a long journey to go. What about when they pass their prime age in the future? And they will have two routes to continue their journey. The two routes are to retire from the games or to be a mentor for the game, to be a coach for other players and help them perform their best in the field. Whether to retire or to be a mentor, the quote, become acquainted with every art still apply to those two types of veterans player. Why is this the case, you may ask? Retiree and mentor need to learn other skills rather than relying just on the skills in the game. And here are some reasons why. First, let's talk about retiree. This is how modern professional sports players get their playtime, fame, and money. They get signed to an organization right out of high school and college. That is really impressive and great for them to be so disciplined and talented that they get noticed by some of the biggest league in the world. However, there are always the cons and pros. There are negative effects to the possible opportunity. What are the negative effects of getting noticed right out of high school and college? The negative effect is that the sports that they learn, practice, and study is the only thing that they know for many decades or even entire lifetime. People might say, why is this a bad thing? This is a bad thing because there are many other essential aspects of life that these players are not proficient in or even know about. One of this aspect of life is finance and budgeting. This becomes a problem when the top players get paid millions per year and is spending it all on luxury. What is the problem? Problem is that the player become broke, or worse, they are stuck in a massive amount of debt due to them spending way out of their means. They spend millions of dollars in cars, house, and clothing just not to be able to maintain the luxury item after they retire. Due to the bill that they have to pay, they end up selling all the luxury item and turn into a middle class individual or even worse. So this is why we need to learn about other aspects of life like finance and relationship, because many players go through multiple divorces, which will damage them a lot. What about if the player wants to be a mentor? The sports mentor are the coaches. Through the love of the sports that they choose when they are young, they want to continue on this journey for a longer time or even the rest of their life. They want to leave a legacy for their players' students. However, this is a huge difference between a good and a bad coach. What does this mean? A good coach turns the player into an exceptional individual in the game and in real life. To learn how to be a good coach, a coach is the top leaders of the sport team. So this means that a leader needs to know a lot for them to be effective and efficient. They need to be confident and competence. How would they be confident and competence? They need to learn how to lead their students. They need to learn strategies of the games and strategies on how to manage the player for the game. They need to be trick of all trades, become acquainted with every arts.